There are a lot of different ways to become a content creator online, whether it be through YouTube, posting your art to Twitter, or running a blog. All of these accomplish one simple goal: create and share. And when it comes to YouTube in specific, there really isn't that gradual, slow climb all the way to the top. It, in a lot of cases, is just that one instance or that one video, that one moment of fame that really brings your channel up a few notches. And a lot of those times, the channel usually blows up with the medium that they're covering. For example, my channel only got to the point that it is because I chose to ride out the Binding of Isaac Repentance hype train and make that game's success my own. But as these trends and these fads come and go, so do the creators, and it can be a struggle trying to find a new niche once your current one loses steam. Lots of people use this as their excuse to quit, because running a declining channel can be frustrating and a lot of the time just not worth it. But the creators who decide to stick it out are usually met with one of two things. They either A, find a lot of success by trying something new, or B, slowly lose their viewership as the audience moves on to more interesting and newer trends. But what if I told you there was a third option, one that I've been seeing a lot in recent times? Sort of like an option C, where a creator dies so fast and so hard, it's almost like they never existed on the platform at all. And such is the case with the topic of today's video, C. Netto. Now, I could very easily just cover the more recent things that have come to light regarding this individual, but unironically, the entire case of Snetto fascinates me, and there is a lot more than just meets the eye. From the rage-filled community posts, the rampant accusations towards other creators, his insanely huge ego, and now most recently, his predatory behavior, I feel like I'd be doing you a disservice by not covering all of it. But before that, I want to give a couple warnings, because my content does not usually become this serious. The content in this video is going to range from the less severe, failed grasps at relevancy and fame, all the way to the sexual grooming of underage fans. If those sort of things rightfully make you uncomfortable, I will put a warning before we talk about those where you will be free just to leave the video. And you might be asking yourself, if it is this serious, why not go to law enforcement or something of that nature? And the truth is, that isn't my call. The victim has expressed they don't wish to pursue legal action against Snetto, and I can't do that for them. And with the age of consent, as we'll get into later, differing between the two countries, it would be almost impossible to try and build a case to incriminate him. Either way, I can promise you guys I will be keeping a very, very close eye on him in the next few months. And one final note, I have a really bad speech impediment when it comes to saying certain letters back to back, and his channel name just so happens to be like the combination of all the letters I can't say back to back, so for the sake of my voice and your ears, I'm just going to call him C from now on. Just the letter C. With all of that out of the way, let's begin our dive into the mind, the ego, the anger, and finally, the decline of the Binding of Isaac's most condemned creator. So here's the big question. Where do we even begin with all of this? Instead of jumping right into the more egregious actions he's taken in the last few months, I think it's best to go in chronological order and discuss his more public controversies first. This is for a couple of reasons. Number one is that it is very important to try and understand the mindset of people like this. Now, I'm not an expert, so don't take anything I say as fact, but I find looking at a person's knee-jerk reaction to controversies or struggles they've gone through very telling of the kind of person that they truly are. And lucky for us, C has quite the extensive list of public controversies. Our second reason is to try and predict how he's going to react to this specific video being made, trying to see what he'll say, what he'll do, and in general, how he's going to respond. To start off, let's cover what I would assume to be his big first public controversy, and that is the allegations he made towards NeonTuber. Around 4 months ago, C made this post on his community page asking another Binding of Isaac YouTuber named NeonTuber for the unedited footage of his most recent Tainted Eden run. I don't plan to go over this situation in full again. I have a video already made on this with the help of NeonTuber himself to try and clear his name because some weird stuff happened in the run with the items that got re-rolled when he was hit that led Snetto to believe he was cheating. Now, this community post that C made was getting a lot of attention for how small his channel was at the time, and the motivations behind calling out Neon like this were pretty much unknown. But what the public didn't see was what happened in Discord that same day. Now, for some light context, I am part of a Binding of Isaac Discord that is almost a collection of some of these smaller names in the scene, like myself, Real Guy, Kilvin, and previously as well, Snedo. Before any of us had even seen his community post, C sent us all the clip of Neon cheating and presented it as almost if it was fact, in which most of us agreed. The clip looked pretty suspicious, but to us, that was the end of it. However, C himself was not done. He then went back into that same community post and commented down below in response to other people saying that he had found proof that Neon was cheating and that was the end of it. But this is when things got a bit weird for me personally. Somebody from C's Discord had messaged me with a clip showing that Neon probably didn't cheat, and that the bug that happened was very easily explainable. They also said they had showed C that same clip, but C was not backing down. And if C had just done a minute of testing himself, despite him claiming he did hours of testing on stream, he would have found the same result, which then begs the question, what were the motivations behind this? I used to think he wanted to gain subs or recognition from this post, but the more that I look at it, the less likely that seems. If he did want to gain subs or likes or numbers off of this, he would have made a video, not a community post. As we'll see when it comes to the drama surrounding him and Slay XC2, he has no issue publicly calling people out in the format of a video, which is more widely accessible than a community post. So then we have to ask ourselves the question, why the community post? And I think this is less about gaining recognition and more about his pride and ego getting in the way. When talking to him one-on-one in DMs, in Discord servers, or in comments, or what have you, he always had this kind of air of superiority around him when it came to discussing Isaac, which is really fucking silly because it's just a video game. Now, C takes great pride in his skill in the Binding of Isaac, going as far as to publicly boast about his insanely high win streak with Keeper in Afterbirth Plus, which again is really fucking silly because I don't think anybody cares. I have no doubt, by the way, that he is a great player, but again, I don't think anybody truly gives a shit. I think what he really wanted to prove here was that if somebody appeared to be better than him at the game a la NeonTuber, then they were obviously a cheater. Or if somebody was more popular than him, then they were just worse at the game as a trade-off. I have no doubt had he been right about Neon cheating, he would have kept doing this same spiel over and over to different people until he was seen as the last good and honest player at this game. I think the reason he went after Neon in specific was because NeonTuber's channel had found almost immediate success. Neon just posting a normal streak video would far surpass anything C had done in the last few months in views by a long shot. I think he was also mad that people thought that players like Neon and like Magical Eye were better than him just because they played harder characters. Tainted Lost runs always turn out to be a bit flashier because there are no useless items on the run at all. And I think this combination of getting YouTube success by playing harder characters was what C felt that he was entitled to based off of some really random Afterbirth Plus Keeper streak. Now, everything I just said about C and his mentality during this era may seem like a reach or a stretch, but let's analyze some other pieces of media from this era of his channel to truly shed some light on what he was thinking during all of this. So to make a very, very long story short, after me and Neon's video went live about the topic, C made a community post where he tried to apologize for the issues. Kind of, not really. It didn't really go so well, and it kind of reads off like a copy pasta. So let's read this off together, shall we? So right away he says he's sorry and then immediately retracts the statement by following with his own defense. When you say sorry for something, it's supposed to be just an apology, not a defense. That kind of defeats the full purpose. And this second point right here I think is my favorite, where I guess people were asking why he was ignoring comments, which I could not find any evidence of, by the way, and he mentions how he just got back from school and he has a private life and isn't a robot. No shit, you have a private life. How is this even part of your attempted defense at all? Everybody who makes content on the internet, scratch that, everybody on the internet in general has a private life. You aren't some special individual victim. I would place a $1 million bet to say everybody subscribed to your channel still currently has a private life. And I don't think anybody thinks you are a robot either. You don't put a lot of work into your content. This reads out like you're saying running your channel is a lot of hard work when, I'm sorry, but it's not. If we go back to the month you made this community post and look at the videos you put out onto your channel at that time, we have a collection of live streams that last about an hour and a half, which is really not that long for a live stream, a bunch of community-suggested clips, meaning all you did was record them, not even find them, and then some 30-second videos of you playing Cookie Clicker. Oh, and we can't forget the classics, like can you like/dislike this video? No one is assuming you're some kind of content machine. Even your thumbnails take zero effort. It's a white PNG with like an enlarged Isaac picture on it. They're atrocious. The only ones that look good are the ones your past artists drew, and even then you reuse that same piece of art for everything going forward. You couldn't even be bothered to make the Nuzlocke thumbnails the proper size. I mean, come on, man. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thinks that running your channel takes a boatload of effort. The reason the community dropped you so fast is because your only legacy was making a fucking fool of yourself, not because of your high caliber of content. A little off track there, but I've been waiting a long time for this video, sorry. Anyways, all of his other points in this community post are just straw man arguments to avoid admitting that he was wrong, which again is showing and telling of his huge pride and ego. About another month passes and C does what C does best. He digs himself into another hole. Again, he decides to address the NeonTuber drama in a community post, which is a terrible idea seeing how bad it went for you last time. And I'm sure you guys are just as tired as I am from reading out these community posts verbatim, but I promise you there is a point to be made from all of this. The issue with trying to decipher all of these posts is that he'll often just post a bunch of weird, incoherent ramblings onto his community page. There are hundreds of posts between this one and the last one. In the current post we are talking about right now, he mentions a previous post he made where he says the Isaac community is full of ignorance and should think about writing hateful comments, which, okay, fair. I have never been one to shy away from talking shit about the Isaac community. When you make a game as complex as Isaac, you're going to naturally breed a very prideful and insufferable user base. But those hateful comments are on you. I'm not defending the hate you're getting, but you fucked up. You made this issue public, you yourself will deal with the fallout. It's as simple as that. So now back to our original post, he essentially just complains that people aren't listening to him, and then blatantly misinterprets the explanation that proves he was in the wrong. There really isn't much more substance to it, just another example of him being too prideful to let himself lose. To the point where everyone else has moved on, and he still has to bring it back up, thinking that there's more to it. No need to worry, we are finally on our last community post before moving on to his next big public controversy. This is a bit of a unique post because it not only covers the NeonTuber drama, but also a drama we'll touch on later, that being the one between himself and Slay XC2. Or rather just himself thinking he's beefing with Slay. And in this post, we get to see what I think is the best example of his pride in full force. Now earlier in this video, I mentioned his entitlement to kind of want to be the best Isaac player in the community, and how he felt he deserved that. When people ask me who I think the best Isaac player is, two names come to mind, those both being Twitch streamers named Cobalt Streak and There Is No Future, two very dedicated players who have streaked to insanely high Eden numbers. But I think on the YouTube side, one name stands above the rest, and that is Magical Eye. Before the Nuzlocke event, I don't think anybody really saw CNetto as a good player, more just a knowledgeable player, if that makes sense. But once people started seeing his actual in-game skill, he became a definite contender for one of the best players. That was until his failed attempt at attacking NeonTuber. Now enter Magical Eye. Mostly known for his tainted loss to Mother Streak back in the early days of Repentance, he is undoubtedly a fantastic player. Now say what you will about the streak being real, the genuine moments that were showed off some really great skill, and because Tainted Lost is naturally just a very flashy character, it was the perfect recipe for YouTube's success. Now, C had almost lost 1,000 subs because of the backlash from the NeonTuber controversy, and his respect as both a creator and a player was waning. He had stopped making videos as frequently and was becoming much more hostile in his streams. I recall at one point him slamming his desk and cursing himself out for taking some pretty dumb damage, which is an obvious huge overreaction. Once again, the thing that C had valued most, which was his pride, was being trashed upon. His Tainted Lazarus streak was not doing any favors for him, so he stopped it, and cited the reason as being the game is just now too easy. And then he decides to imitate his viewers that say he's not as good as Magical Eye. And again, I find this just as stupid as you guys do, but it still is important to talk about when discussing him. But I think he genuinely is the only player who cares about being the best at Isaac. Literally nobody else gives a shit. Then he responds to that same imitation, which, by the way, I doubt that imitation ever happened to him. I'm guessing it's just another version of his self-victimization. But he responds to that imitation by saying, "I am as good as Magical Eye," which, for the fourth time in this video, I don't think anybody gives a shit. Go jack off your ego somewhere else. Now, with this final post about the NeonTuber drama, comparing himself to Magical Eye, we kind of have the first nail in the coffin of his very steep decline. He had lost viewers, he had lost subs, and most importantly for him, he had lost respect and pride. And when somebody hits that point where they're at their all-time low, they start to do really stupid and really desperate things, which leads us to our next controversy, which is the drama he tried to incite between himself and another Binding of Isaac YouTuber, SlayXC2. And because C has removed any video evidence of this controversy, I will try and summarize this stupidity the best that I can. On July 29th, C made a video featuring a Forgotten synergy revolving around Rubber Cement and Tiny Planet. This video is titled Best Forgotten Synergy and has around 56,000 views. Neither the tags, description, or title reference the items being used. Even searching up the phrase "C Netto Forgotten" does not bring up the video. The synergy was also recommended to C by a viewer. On November 1st, SlayXC2 made a video showcasing the exact same synergy. His was also viewer suggested. Now, after Slay's video went live, C made a video titled "Stop Stealing My Content" or something like that, where he showcased Slay using the same synergy as him. Now let's start to break down just how stupid C Netto sounds. First of all, if I can't find your video after this huge ordeal happened, how is Slay supposed to find it if none of the search terms lead to it? Aside from your video being quite literally unsearchable, why are you yourself laying claim to this synergy? I mean, you only showcased it. A viewer found it for you. Might I also add that this video was almost half a year ago, so nobody is going to be finding your video anymore this far into repentance. You aren't losing any viewership over this. Also, it's a fucking synergy. Am I going to tag you in every video I make where I get the same exact synergy? Absolutely not. It is not affecting you that someone else made a video covering the same thing over half a year later when your original video was actually quite unsearchable. And one last thing to mention is that Slay's video was of a much higher quality than yours was. He bothered to explain how and why things work, so in every sense of the word, his coverage was better than yours. I never thought I'd have to explain to a Synergy channel that they don't actually own the Synergy. So essentially, C tried to publicly call out Slay for doing the same synergy he did 3 months prior, despite there being no way to check if he had already done it. Both of these were also recommended by the viewers, meaning that this was in no way deliberate. Slay and myself are pretty good friends and he is not that kind of guy. So then C goes on to do what C does best, making a hole for himself in his community posts. In this post, he claims that this was not the first time this had happened, and then conveniently refuses to elaborate. This is also his first use of caps lock in the post, showing that the second failed attempt at trying to gain his viewership back has really gotten to him. In this following post, he then claims he can just go about stealing videos and nobody can stop him by his viewers' logic. You covered one synergy 3 months ago and it was unsearchable. It would take way more effort to look through your videos, pick a synergy, and re-record it than to make the videos that you make for this platform. Relax. He says he cares so much because he hates being lied to, then directly references the NeonTuber drama and one sentence from Slay's comment, which by the way is now gone because he removed his video on the topic. I can only guess what he's referring to in regards to the NeonTuber situation. It could be the fact that I made the video defending him when I was originally on CNeto's side about the whole thing, but as you can see right here in our Discord, I did send him the script ahead of time to look at to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And I also made a point to defend him twice in my community posts, despite him continually making it harder and harder to do so. So it's just another case of him victimizing himself, I guess. Then, as his second reason, he says, once someone had stolen my video and everyone said I stole it, this was 2 or 3 years ago. I don't think I could even explain how stupid that sounds. And about 1 week later, we get to our final community post of this section of the video, and it is actually a direct apology to both NeonTuber and Slay XC2. Well, it's actually as close as an apology as you can get with this guy. It essentially boils down to, I'm sorry, but, which is not an apology at all. And yes, this is obviously once again a show of his pride and ego getting in the way. He wants to apologize to get his viewers' respect back, but also show that he wasn't completely in the wrong to keep his pride and ego intact. You can't walk in both worlds. You are either sorry for it all or you are sorry for none of it and just doing it for a show. He starts off his first apology by saying, sorry I was a prick, which is just an amazing start to an apology. If somebody was apologizing to me and said, I'm sorry I was a prick, I would be ecstatic. But then he has to finish it off by defending his actions and how he did what he did, which just defeats the entire point of saying you're sorry, because you're not sorry. You just want it to appear like you're sorry so you can have a bigger platform to defend yourself on. It doesn't work like that. I'm not trying to say he's not allowed to defend himself in situations like these, but every time he does, he falls flat on his face. It wasn't an issue of the way and the phrasing that you asked the question in. It was the issue of how you asked, which was publicly. Right now, you are apologizing for something nobody is mad at. You're apologizing for the wrong thing. Now, in his final apology to Slay XC2, it is pretty much the same thing where he says, I'm sorry, but I got mad, which being mad does not absolve you of all of your issues. If you could say you get mad after every mistake you make, you would literally be just untouchable. Now, this apology post marks the end of C's community post tirade and also kind of marks the end or the stopping point of his channel. Since these two issues, he has seen a massive decline in subs, going from almost 16k at his peak, which is not a small number at all, down to 14.4 in the span of less than 4 months. In fact, in Social Blade's projection, he is actually still steadily declining in subs, looking to go down to 14.3k by tomorrow as of recording this. But as most of us know, the sub count doesn't determine the creator, it's more the viewership, and we see an even bigger decline in that from these issues. At his peak, he was gaining about 650,000 views a week, which is a really good number. It fluctuates a bit, but always tends to get back to a great height with the release of his really short clips. But after this point, right when the NeonTuber stuff happened, you see it start to more gradually decrease, rather than just sharply drop off, which shows a more general lack of interest in the channel, rather than just not uploading. The reason why the other drops appear so sharp is because instead of making videos, he was just streaming, which you can't really make big gains in views if you aren't putting out content a majority of your sub base wants to watch. Directly after the NeonTuber stuff, he was still posting his average couple of clips a week, but due to his loss in subs and the viewers' lack of respect, he got thrown out of the algorithm, and his clips started performing really, really badly. And right here in the week of November 1st, right when the Slay XC2 drama began, you see another gradual decrease, down to about 2,000 views a week. So a quick intermission before heading into our next part of the video here. I actually recorded this entire thing yesterday, but as it turns out, my microphone was muted, so I kind of have to give this in a more quick and abridged fashion to make sure this video gets out on time. So I apologize for that, and I apologize for being dressed different as well. But with that out of the way, let's dive into the heavier stuff. So in the first week of November, we see his channel take another sizable dip in subs and viewership, which was pretty much the final nail in the coffin for his entire career on this platform. And although there is a small chance he can come back and make content for another game, it is a really, really slim chance. He's tried experimenting with other games such as Minecraft or Terraria, but has found little to no success in those. Now, it is worth noting he has tried to come back and stream Isaac quite a few times in the last few months, but the viewership is still dwindling lower and lower for somebody with his sub count and average viewership a few months back. Now, the average person may not care too much about what happens to him because his channel is already dead in the water, but what I want to show you next is the primary reason why he should not be allowed to have a platform or to make content on YouTube ever again, and why he is a danger to every community he is a part of. So a lot of you may be here from the Sinvicta video that I made about a month ago, and for context, that video took 3 months of research to cover Sinvicta's 10-year length on this platform. This video on C took the same amount of time, and I'm only covering the last 4 months. Now, this is also the point in the video where if you don't do well with sensitive topics such as manipulation, grooming, or rape, you can take your leave here. On December 19th, I received a message from an account named Mr. Mediocre on Discord, who had been dropping hints in my comments over the last few months that I should do a video looking into CNetto and his channel. Now, I assumed this was just because of his insanity on his community post page, because to the outside eye, and even my eye, knowing him, he sounded like he was going insane. Now, what Mediocre said next, however, took me out of left field. He said there was something serious going on between C and his current channel artist, Lunzi. Now, making the general leap in logic that you can do for most gaming YouTubers when it comes to controversy, I made the assumption that it was about some kind of sexual misconduct with minors, and as it turns out, sadly, I ended up being on the money. So when Mediocre confirmed my suspicions about the matter, I then did what any sane person would do, and I asked him for proof regarding this. And instead of just sending me the occasional Discord screenshot, he did something that I thought would not be possible, and he put me in touch with the actual victim of CNetto, his artist, Lunzi. Now, before we go any further into what C actually did, I want to kind of set the stage so that we're all on the same page. Number one is that the victim, Lunzi, has asked me in specific to make this video about CNetto, and has no plans to take this into a legal scene. And because that is not the wish of the victim, I don't really have jurisdiction to take this to law enforcement. As much as I want to, I don't think that's the right call when the actual victim doesn't want that to be done for them. I believe in cases like these, it is very important to not overstep your boundaries with the victim, and instead of doing things for them, help them do things themselves. Now, your priority number 2 should always be to make sure the offender can't do these things again. However, sadly, we are already too late on that fact, and he has been doing this with another victim for the past couple months as well, who is also a minor. He has done things like tell her that he loves her, ask for sexual favors, etc., etc. Now, because I don't know this victim personally or don't know the case too well, I'm not going to make any factual statements about what he's doing, but just know that she is a minor and he is doing things that he should not be doing. The next and final thing I want to touch on before we get into the actual screenshots and DMs here is the topic of the age of consent, where in C's country, Poland, the age of consent is 15, and C is 18, going on 19 here very shortly. In Lunzi's country of Argentina, the age of consent is 18, where when all this situation started, she was 14, and midway through their conversations becomes 15. Now, despite the age of consent being different in both countries, Lunzi was 14 when this situation started, meaning that in either case of their jurisdictional boundaries, she was a minor. So, CNetto is 18 heading into college in a country where the age of consent is 15, and Lunzi is entering what would be the first year of American high school at the age of 14, in a country where the age of consent is 18. And that is where our story begins. And by the way, Lunzi is not a native English speaker, so I'll be trying to translate her messages the best that I can. I started following C in May, and our first direct interaction privately was on June 22nd via the Arts and Edits channel in his Discord, where I put up some art of Isaac, Pokemon, and some fan art of him. On the following day, June 23rd, I offered to make him a special Oshawott icon that would serve as his profile picture. I asked for things that he felt represented him, and he said he wears glasses and really likes coffee. Our private DMs officially started with a picture of his glasses to use as a reference for his profile picture. Meanwhile, we played some games with other people in voice channels and talked privately as well in voice chats frequently. On June 24th, I made him a thumbnail for an Isaac channel for free since he was playing a challenge I had suggested. On June 25th is where I noticed the first instance of him being weird, where I told him I had started using Discord more because of his server, and he said, "Oh, so I'm the reason." Aside from that, we started talking about our hobbies, and I told him I'm either sleeping or playing Isaac. He replied to that with, "Oh, you little liar," and was constantly stating how similar we were. From June 26th to the present day, he has instigated our every conversation. He was on a vacation, and I said I was sorry for not telling him very interesting stories, which he said, "You are so cute, I need a hug, and I need a person like you." That same day, I became his thumbnail maker, and he started telling me his problems with low self-confidence and those sorts of things. On July 5th, we talked about his ex-girlfriend, and after that, he said he loved me as a sister, and I said I loved him as a brother, and the same day, I made 2 thumbnails for him. The next day, he started role-playing with me, with things like hugs, and I followed along with it, because, I was a fan. He also began sending me negative comments from his videos and asking me to reply and defend him. On July 7th, he asked me for a picture of his feet during a normal Spanish conversation. Then he said he needs a girlfriend like me because I was so good. For a little while, nothing of major importance happened, besides him being super sweet and calling me pet names. I said that had made me uncomfortable, but he did it anyways. He told me multiple times he was horny, but I never did anything in response. He officially asked me out on a Discord date on September 7th and told me he was horny. Then, at one point, either late September or early October, we got into a call after stream. I was playing Terraria and he said he was horny, and then he said he was going to masturbate. I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want to talk about it, so I let him do it while I was playing. After that, he began to become very abusive and toxic. On November 20th, he pinged me in his public Discord to make an example of me. He said he was mad I was talking to other people and not responding to him. He told everyone I was the only person he could talk to and then blamed me for his issues. He then pinged me again to ensure that everybody knew it was me. He then took this further on WhatsApp and kept blaming me for his issues, saying I act like he doesn't exist, I ignore him, and it's all my fault. He then told me he would not get professional help for his issues, and that I was all the help he needed, again placing more responsibility and blame onto me. If I was ever busy, talking to anybody else, even just friends, or just not responding to him, he would get very angry and territorial, despite us not even being in an official relationship. And a couple more things to say that didn't fit in with the last topic is that within this time, while I was making thumbnails for him, he would sometimes just not pay me. I have actually only been paid twice, because whenever I would remind him that he owed me, he would make me feel like I was annoying him. He still owes me for almost all of the work that I did for him. I'm not doing this for revenge, nor am I doing this because I want money. I'm doing this because I didn't realize how much of a terrible situation this was for me, and it took someone from the outside, that being mediocre, to shine a light on what was truly happening. Now, that testimonial from Lindsay was very hard to read out loud, and I couldn't imagine being in her shoes through all of this. But sadly, we have to always ask the question of, where is the verification for all of this being true? Outside of just the screenshots she has sent me, is there anything else we can do to further solidify this case? And as it turns out, we don't need to do anything. Because when C had realized I was doing a video about this a couple months back, he found an invite into our old Binding of Isaac Discord server, and had DM'd me asking to talk to me about this situation. Because I wanted to hear his side out and just see what he had to say in defense for himself, I did. And you will not believe what this motherfucker said to me. He opens up by trying to defend himself on the smaller things like not paying Lindsay, to which he says he has no direct way to pay her because in the past it was just through buying her Steam games or Binding of Isaac DLC. Which is like, okay, why are you telling this to me? Why not text Lindsay and work it out with her and pay her? I'm not your middleman, dude. I'm not your fucking dad. Work this out. Then he defends himself on the more egregious actions, where he tries to say he didn't ask to be her boyfriend until she was 15, which she turned 15 in late August, where he very obviously alludes to that fact in July by saying he needs a girlfriend like her. So that doesn't really work in your defense, man. You also, on many different occasions when she was 14, asked to see pictures of her feet or tell her you were horny. Again, like, it doesn't matter when you asked her or when you didn't ask her, you did things that were much, much worse. He also states he was only calling her pet names because she wanted him to, which, number one, we know she didn't. And number two, are you going to do everything a 14-year-old girl asks you to do? How is that part of your defense again? I mean, she's a child. That's the whole point of this. She can't even give you legal consent to do anything in this romantic or sexual fashion. She is a fucking child. You are an adult. This is a situation where you're supposed to know better. You do know better is the thing, because you on multiple occasions waited for her to become 15 before you started doing this super egregious thing. So you did know better, but that still didn't stop you. You're taking advantage of this creator and fan, even the age difference dynamic there, to get what you want without much of a struggle. You are disgusting, and now you can't hide this anymore. Like, what's next? You're gonna tell me that you only jacked off in the call with her because she was okay with it? Yes, that is exactly what he is going to tell me. When I asked Lunzi for more specifics on this call happening, she says it started out with her just making moaning jokes, and those moaning jokes turned on C so much that he started masturbating in a call with a 15-year-old on Discord playing Terraria. Moaning jokes turned this disgusting pig on to jack off in a call with a 15-year-old. So obviously, sexually grooming and harassing and asking for sexual material from a minor is pretty fucking bad. But obviously, with him, it always gets worse because we know, as I mentioned earlier, he is doing this to one more confirmed person who, again, I can't say too much about this case because I don't know much about it, but all we do know is that she is another minor in a different country that he is telling her he loves her and asking for sexual favors. So he's not going to stop no matter what happens. We also know, due to some very rough screenshots from a Discord call with this other minor that Lunzi was in, that he was working on her at the same time that he was working on Lunzi. So he probably has multiple girls he's been talking to that are under the age at the same time. Now, I could very well keep this video going talking about the porn he puts in his Discord server with no NSFW tag on it. I could talk about the time he endorsed rape jokes in his server, but I think you guys get the point at this point in the video that he's a pretty awful dude. So the next question kind of becomes, what do we do about it? And the answer is quite simple. We don't do anything. Don't go to his channel. Don't comment on his videos. Don't dislike his videos. All of these interactions give him positive reinforcement. It boosts his channel in the algorithm and allows him to reach and potentially hurt more people. So the best that you can do is quietly just unsub and leave his Discord server and let his name fade into obscurity. The more attention you give him, the bigger his ego and his pride gets, and he will not stop. I don't want to have to make a second video reading off 300 community posts regarding him jacking off in a call with a minor. It's just not what I want to do. So out of respect for Lunzi, out of respect for myself, and hopefully everybody else in this situation, just don't mention him, just leave, let his channel die. I think the thing he's going to do in the most likely scenario is he is going to make either a video showing screenshots of Lunzi being okay with stuff happening despite her not giving expressed consent or being of age to give proper consent, and think that fully exonerates him, which it doesn't. But that's pretty much all that I have for you guys. End of the day, C is a groomer, he is a borderline pedophile, and he should not be allowed to be on the internet or in this community as a whole.